Everyone doing today? It's your boy JJ Domination, and we are back here with a Week 7 in a nutshell video. We're going to be discussing all of the games that happened during Week 7 of the NFL season. Can you believe we're almost halfway through the season? I mean, after Week 9, or at Week 9, we'll basically be halfway through the season. Maybe I'll do a special kind of video for the midway point, but for now, we got to break down these games. By the way, after the shitty week in predictions I had last week, boy, this week was a different story. 11-3 this week for predictions. The 3 games I got wrong were kind of silly. I mean, I'll go into that when we get to those games. But let's go ahead and get started with Thursday Night Football. I picked the Kansas City Chiefs. I haven't really been doing the Thursday Night Breakdown videos. I've just decided to head in a different direction. I was doing like Waiver Wire Wednesday, the Thursday Night Breakdown, and then the Friday video for like your stardoms and situms. I've just been going in a different direction, man. I've been getting, I don't want to say I've been getting lazy. It's more of me like having other things to do that are like preventing me from doing that. And it's not like I don't want to do it or I do want to do it. It's just, your boy's got some stuff going on that he is taking care of. So let's go ahead and just break down the Thursday night game. I don't care about my personal life anyway. So the Chiefs, they took care of business 30-6, but it came at a costly price. They lost Patrick Mahomes in this game, a QB sneak, and he dislocated his kneecap. The trainers had to pop it back into place just so the boy could walk. I mean, that is tough, and he is going to be out for at least 3 to 6 weeks. I believe the 6-week time period is them saying if he's not ready in 3 weeks, he's just going to sit out until after the bye, which would be perfectly understandable. Now, it sucks because we are getting robbed of Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers on Sunday Night Football, and I'm not going to sit here and say as a Packer fan I'm glad Mahomes isn't playing, because number one, I'm not going to underestimate any team in this league, and number two, I would have loved to have seen Patrick Mahomes play. Him and Aaron Rodgers dueling it out. I mean, they have compared Patrick Mahomes to Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and a lot of people were looking at this game as a potential passing of the torch, and I just think it would have been super cool to see him out there, the interaction between the two, but we're not really going to see that because he's not going to be playing, unfortunately. As for the Chiefs, when Matt Moore came in, he did have a good pass to Tyreek Hill that he basically got good run yards after the catch or whatever, and he scored a touchdown on that. And what's funny is Matt Moore came in and the Chiefs offense still outscored the Denver Broncos. The Broncos, man, they're not looking good offensively. I mean, they had a bad game offensively against the Chiefs defense. And this isn't me like bashing the Chiefs defense. They got a couple of players I really like on that team. If you've been following the channel, then you know I'm a huge fan of Frank Clark and the Honey Badger. So they got 2 players I really like on that defense, and they're going to be difference makers. If they elevate their game, then the Chiefs won't have to be so reliant on the offense. They could just be 2 playmakers doing their thing on defense. But Denver's offense was pretty stagnant. Really, the best player was Emmanuel Sanders and Royce Freeman. Outside of that, I mean, even with Phillip Lindsay, they didn't get really a whole lot going. But for Kansas City, I mean, it's the usual, it's not really a one-man show. It's just whoever we can get open. And I thought Chris Harris did a good job on Tyreek Hill. Overall, I mean, he would switch on and off between Tyreek Hill and what's his name, Demarcus Robertson, whatever his name is. But overall, good win for Kansas City. It's going to be a tough out next week against Green Bay, Sunday Night Football, but at least they'll be at home. Maybe the crowd will show some support for Matt Moore, probably get some confidence going. That's what you want to do in those situations. Don't be down because you have a backup quarterback in. Do everything you can to support him. Do everything you can to get his confidence going and whatever. Speaking of the Packers, the next game we're going to be talking about is the Oakland Raiders at the Green Bay Packers. It ended up being a 42-24 victory for Green Bay at home. I got to give credit to the Oakland Raiders. I mean, I've been doing that a lot this year, but their offense, man, without Tyrell Williams, they just traded for Zay Jones, and he was like a healthy scratch. which is interesting. I thought for sure he'd be playing in this game. Without Trent Brown, their right tackle, I mean, this is a team that came in with a couple of key injuries, man. I mean, it wasn't just Green Bay coming in with a couple of key injuries. It was Oakland, too. And with basically just Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs, they were able to do their thing on offense. I mean, I got to give them all the credit in the world. They hung 24 points on Green Bay, and they didn't allow a sack. Now, there was a couple of decent pressures here and there, but that just goes to show you that this offensive line is much improved from where they were last year. Last year, Colton Miller was looking like one of the worst left tackles in football. This year, he looks like a pretty damn good left tackle. I mean, the transformation of the offensive line has just been incredible for Oakland, and John Gruden, at least on that side of the ball, deserves a lot of credit. Now, when it comes to their defense, they are terrible. However, they don't really have a whole lot of talent on that side of the defense. They're basically just playing hard. You know, they're playing as hard as they can, but they really don't have the talent. They don't have the juice on that side of the ball. So it's going to be kind of tough for them, you know what I'm saying? And they just traded Garyon Conley to the Houston Texans for the third-round pick they got in the Jadeveon Clowney trade. So basically, they turned Jadeveon Clowney into two decent special teams players, and Barkevius Mingo and I think Jacob Martin. I don't know, Mingo may play more than I think he does, and basically Garyon Conley. So, you know, when we talk about the Texans, we'll talk a little bit more about Garyon Conley, but let's talk about Green Bay without Davante Adams again. But, you know, they've been without him for a couple of weeks, so they've had time to really make adjustments and try to scheme other people open. So it's not really an excuse. But without Darnell Savage as well, that's pretty tough, man. I'm actually missing Darnell Savage. Even though Will Redmond was okay, you know, like, I miss Darnell Savage out there. But when it comes to the Green Bay Packers, man, I mean, Aaron Rodgers was just on his game, man. 429 yards, 6 total touchdowns, including a rushing touchdown that he got as well. Ended the game with a perfect passer rating, and he had as many touchdowns as he did incompletions. 6 touchdowns to 6 incompletions. That is insane. And really watching this man do his work in this game is amazing. Now, I know Oakland's defense isn't the greatest, but hell, New England ain't played nobody either, and we rave about everything Tom Brady does. So when Aaron Rodgers goes up against an inferior defense, he should do exactly what he's doing, and that's take advantage of them, abuse them. I mean, Aaron Rodgers balled so hard on the Oakland Raiders secondary that they traded Garyon Conley. I mean, that's my joke, and that's my narrative. I'm sticking to it. But seriously, I mean, guys like Jake Kumaro played well. Marquez Valdez-Scantling had a couple of beautiful catches. He did have one where he basically caught like a drag route, and it went to the house. But 2 catches, 133 yards. I mean, that is just impressive. And he has been a good deep threat for this team. When we're able to run the football, I mean, the play action, deep shots have been very effective with him. He has definitely improved in that regard. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, that being. But I know I'm spending way too much time on this game. Overall, good game. I thought Aaron Jones played well as well. Just a great team effort. Even though the defense didn't play their greatest on that side of the football, I mean, they did what they needed to do, and that's basically keep things at bay. You know, like a couple of those touchdowns kind of came later in the game. But overall, good team win for Green Bay. They're on to Kansas City next week. We'll see how they do. I would not underestimate Kansas City. Like I said, they got a lot of weapons. They're very talented. And if they can just manage things for Matt Moore, they could be fine. But speaking of things that may not be so fine, how about those Atlanta Falcons, baby? And we're going to talk about something that they did when we get to the Monday Night Football game. I will touch on it here a little bit, though. But they lost to the Rams 37-10. This was the first game since week 1 where the Falcons can't crack 20 points. So anyone trying to blame the offense for their struggles is clearly an idiot and doesn't watch the game. So, yeah, there's that. Their defense has been shit all year, and we'll talk about the guy responsible for their defense here in a moment. But Todd Gurley didn't really have that many rushing yards. I think he averaged like 2.2 yards a carry or something. But he did have a couple of touchdowns. I believe he had a rushing touchdown, and he had that receiving touchdown. That was a good throw from Jared Goff. We got to see Jalen Ramsey's debut, and outside of like one big catch by Julio, Jalen Ramsey did his job. I mean, you're asking being the number one corner in the league in an offensive league where the rules are more offensive friendly to cover the best receiver in football. You've got to be kidding me. I thought Jalen Ramsey did the best job he could do. Now, whether you think Jalen Ramsey is the best corner or not is completely irrelevant. It's him and Stephon Gilmore. And then, like, everyone else, basically. I mean, you could throw Jair's name in the mix, but, you know, when he goes up against a Julio, then we'll really see what he's made of. But hey, the Rams are just killing shit right now. Devontae Freeman tried to throw those hands with Aaron Donald. I would not be throwing hands with a guy that trains with knives in the offseason. I would completely stay out of that, just saying. Like, I'm not a pussy or anything, but, you know, there's just certain fights that you should take and you shouldn't take. A fight with Aaron Donald, considering you're 5'9" and he's a freak specimen, yeah, that's not a fight that I'm looking to take. Just saying. Matt Ryan, he hurt his ankle. It looks like he won't be playing against Seattle Sunday, which is tough. Not the news that Falcons fans need right now, considering how terrible their defense has been. And we're going to go ahead and talk about Dan Quinn right now. Yeah, you got to fire Dan Quinn. I mean, your defense is probably only better than Miami's. And the only reason they're better than Miami's is because, well, Miami's trying to tank. They're trying to be terrible. But, I mean, here we go. Another week where you're giving up 30-plus points. And, yeah, I get it. It's the Rams. The Rams didn't even run the football that well. So, like, what's the excuse? You know, just Atlanta in a nutshell. If you are a Falcons fan and you don't want Dan Quinn, you don't think Dan Quinn should be fired, then I don't know what to tell you. I've been watching this shitty defense for 7 weeks now, and I do watch the Falcons a lot, so this isn't me just talking out of my ass. I do watch them play a lot. I live in Georgia. I think I know a thing or two about the Atlanta Falcons, and they're terrible, and I don't think it's up for debate. They're ass. They're terrible on defense. Offensively, this is the first bad game they've had since week 1, and people are going to blame the offense for them losing. How about you blame your defense for giving up 37 fucking points again? How about that? Blame them. It's their fault. I mean, good lord. You'll never have a chance if your defense is giving up 30-plus every damn week. But Dan Quinn should be fired. I mean, he's had one good defense in 5 years for a defensive mastermind, a defensive genius that he is. And yes, I know that the Falcons have had injuries. You know, Keanu Neal's been hurt. The offensive line has been banged up. Guess what? The best teams in the league are dealing with injuries as well. They're making adjustments. They're finding ways to get the ball out quicker. It's just a poor excuse if you're a Falcons fan. You know, it's really a poor excuse. Don't use the injury excuse with me. A lot of teams are dealing with injuries. The Packers are down without Devontae Adams, and they're using practice squad receivers to get their guys going. The Patriots have 2 offensive linemen out, and yet they're still getting the ball out quickly and making sure Brady does not get killed. The 49ers, without their starting 2 tackles, and they're still undefeated. The New Orleans Saints doing it all without Drew Brees. They've been 5-0 without him. I mean, in Kansas City, without Patrick Mahomes, still outscored the Denver Broncos in that game with Matt Moore. So I really don't want to hear shit about injuries right now with the Falcons. You're just a terrible football team that needs a change. And Dan Quinn and probably your general manager would be a great start and a great catalyst for change, because they are the 2 guys who have been terrible. So that's who I would get rid of. The 49ers at the Redskins, this was a 9-0 win for San Francisco. An ugly game, you know, the type of game that you really want to run the football, and both teams did exactly that. The only difference is one team has Robbie Gould and the other one doesn't. So yeah, the 49ers have Robbie Gould. Pretty good field goal kicker. I think he missed 1 field goal in this game. So he went 3 for 4. Meanwhile, you look at the Washington Redskins, they ran the ball pretty good. They had a chance to score. They didn't really quite score, which is why they didn't score any points. Case Keenum, not a great day, you know, getting abused back there. No time to throw. And that was a shitty, like, game as well. Like, that was, like, horrible field conditions, a lot of rain, people treating it like a slip and slide. I mean, that was just one of those games where, like, if you love old school football, that's a good game to watch, because, like, people are just running the football. It's a low scoring game. I'm a fan of those types of games, but not when one of the teams is really good and the other one's just bad. Like, if there's 2 good teams and they're just running the crap out of the football, then yeah, that's something. But Not when two shitty teams are playing, or one shitty team and one very good, arguably best in the NFC team. That's what I meant to say. Sorry, I know 49ers fans are going to be like, oh, you just called us a shitty team. What are you thinking? My bad. It was a slip-up. Let's go on to the next game, though. The Houston Texans losing to the Indianapolis Colts 30-23. Jacoby Brissett had himself a great game. I mean, he played very well against the Houston Texans. And I know a lot of Colts fans were kind of upset about Andrew Luck retiring all of a sudden. But, man, Jacoby Brissett, he's been really good. What are the Colts, like 4-2? First place in the division? I mean, that's very good. I mean, you got to give props to the Colts. Got to give props to Frank Reich. And, the offensive line has done a good job of protecting Jacoby Brissett. Obviously, they have one of the best offensive lines in the game. So, yeah, that's how it's going to be. Zach Pascal had a great game. Same thing with Eric Ebron. Those were like the two guys that really just showed out in this game. And if you look at Houston's side of the ball, I mean, Deshaun Watson, I thought, played good. They just couldn't quite get the job done, and that's what happens sometimes. It's very interesting because the Texans just aren't quite able to beat the Colts for some reason. It's very weird. But good win for the Colts. They might win this division. Don't rule anything out just yet, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a good win from the Colts. I thought they played pretty well, and especially Jacoby Brissett, like I said. Speaking of playing well, the Vikings, 42-30. Ever since that Bears game, Kirk Cousins is, just went off, man. He's been crazy good ever since that Bears game. 3 games, I think like over 1,000 yards in that stretch, 10 touchdowns, 1 pick. I mean, he has just been crazy good over the last 3 weeks, ever since that Bears game. This team was like 2-2, looking in the mirror like, hey, maybe we were better with Case Keenum than we are with Kirk Cousins. And Cousins, all of a sudden, coming out, playing some great football, beat the Detroit Lions in a game that I think the Lions were kind of in a must-win situation. I mean, it's not over, obviously, for Detroit, but, these division games, you kind of want to win, considering you just lost in Lambeau Field, regardless of if you got screwed or not. A loss is a loss, unfortunately. But Detroit, they played very well on offense. Marvin Jones, good lord, 4 touchdowns on like 10 catches. Just abused Xavier Rhodes all game long. That was crazy. Kerryon Johnson did get hurt in this game. I actually like Kerryon Johnson a lot. I hope he's going to recover. I think he might miss a couple of weeks. Adam Thielen also had a hamstring injury. It's nothing serious, though. Like, he may not play Thursday, but, he should be good to go probably after that, which will be a good sign for him. So that basically means he'll miss, like, 2 weeks, if that's the case. But, looking at the Vikings, I mean, good lord. I mean, they've just been crazy good. And Dalvin Cook, another week, another dominant performance. And the defense for Detroit, I mean, this is something we got to talk about. I mean, you look at all of their losses, the defense hasn't quite played as well, with the exception of the Green Bay game. I thought they played as good as they could play, but that loss against Kansas City, they gave up a lot of points. Patrick Mahomes may have not been the magician that we know him to be, but you gave up a lot of points. And in this game, Kirk Cousins was a magician and seemed to just throw whatever he wanted, and he won. And Diggs had a pretty solid game. He did have that one weird drop, like in the end zone, I believe. Where it went right through his hands. That was crazy. But for Detroit, like I said, man, they played very well offensively. Danny Amendola had a pretty good game. I wish they would use TJ Hawkinson more, though. Like, he had 3 catches, I'm pretty sure. I wish they would get him the ball more, but I understand. You don't want to force it to any particular person. That's all right, though. Good performance offensively for Detroit. The defense, though, got shredded up. They couldn't stop the run, and they really weren't getting the craziest amount of pressure. And for Detroit, if you're not doing those 2 things, then your secondary, which you have leaned on pretty much, a lot of the season. You've leaned on them for pretty much the whole season. You're asking them to do a lot. If you're not getting pressure and you're not doing a good job of stopping the run with Snacks Harrison in there. Tough week, but let's move on. Jaguars at Bengals. Out of all the games this week, that was the one that I watched the least of, but a player that I do want to talk about, probably the best offensive player for either team in this game, Alex Erickson, man. He got a chance to really perform in this game, and he did. He had an absolutely good game. I think he had like 6 or 7 catches for 100-plus yards. Even had a rushing attempt in there, which is crazy. Just good stuff to see from him. Good to see that with injuries, other players are getting an opportunity. Andy Dalton did not play great. He had a few interceptions, a pick 6 by Yannick Ngakoue. I believe he fumbled as well. Miles Jack got a good pick as well. Just a tough game for the Bengals. I mean, their offensive line already sucks. They can't run the football with my guy Joe Mixon. It's just been a tough going for Cincinnati. They're the only 0-7 football team in the league because Miami had a bye week. And when you look at Jacksonville, I mean, Gardner Minshew's fine. Like, he made a couple of good throws, but another week where his completion percentage just wasn't quite good. Leonard Fournette played well. DJ Chark, nice to see him get going again. We'll see how both teams do next week, unless Cincinnati has a bye, and I just don't know. But anyway, I'll check to see who Cincinnati plays. They play the LA Rams, so Zach Taylor's revenge game, I guess. I don't know. But let's just go ahead and move on. I don't really want to talk about that game anymore. It was boring. Cardinals at Giants. Kyler Murray did not get a touchdown in this game. He didn't play the greatest, but he played good enough. This game was really about Chase Edmonds. 3 touchdowns for him, 27 carries. He just dominated, man. He just dominated. All of his touchdowns were 20-plus yards as well. No goal line bullshit. He got some legitimate touchdowns. I mean, 1-yard touchdowns are legitimate, but you know what I mean. Just a good game from Chase Edmonds, man. He completely dominated, basically matched the scoring from the Giants. Daniel Jones, or Danny Dimes as they like to call him, he had some good throws in this game. He had some good plays. It's just the fact that he takes a bunch of unnecessary sacks, and he did have a bad interception. The only interception that the Cardinals defense has had all year. And he basically stared down Evan Ingram, and Jordan Hicks was able to jump the route. And, that was a good play from Jordan Hicks. Daniel Jones, I mean, he's got to clean up the fumbles. I feel like his pocket awareness isn't too bad. I just think he doesn't sense the pressure well consistently. And that's kind of an issue. First game with Saquon back, he didn't do anything too crazy. He had a couple of nice runs here and there, and he did get that 5-yard touchdown, but nothing too crazy. He didn't really have an impact on this game like I thought he would, which is why I picked the Giants to win. Didn't quite happen that way. Let's just say, what was the other game I picked incorrectly on? Oh, I picked Detroit to win. Yeah, that didn't go well. Maybe if their defense showed up, they might have, but, you're asking a lot, I guess. I don't know. Good game from the Cardinals. I mean, their defense, like I said, got their first interception. Chandler Jones was good. Next, we got the Dolphins, everyone's favorite team. Felipe, Dolphins fan here, versus Josh Allen and those Buffalo Bills. I mean, I have never seen in my lifetime, and remind me if this has ever happened, I've never seen an onside kick in real life returned for a touchdown. Somehow, only the Miami Dolphins would allow that to happen. Micah Hyde recovers an onside kick for a touchdown. I have never seen that happen in the history of games before. And, very interesting stuff. Josh Allen had a pretty good game. John Brown got it going as well. He had a nice touchdown grab for 20 yards. Devin Singletary, this is his first game back from the hamstring injury. Didn't quite play the greatest. I think he only had 26 yards on limited carries and touches, but he's getting back in the NFL shape, I guess. I don't know. He's slowly getting back into it. I'd like to see him get more opportunities, but Frank Gore's been playing good. And for Ryan Fitzpatrick, I mean, just a standard game. He makes plays and then he throws picks. fumbles. I mean, it's just kind of a Ryan Fitzpatrick game. Nothing more, nothing less. But it's nice to see that the Dolphins are at least being somewhat competitive, you know. At least they're not rolling over and bending over for other teams. That's a good sign. Good win from Buffalo. They play Philadelphia next week. A miserable, desperate Philadelphia team. We've seen Philadelphia when they were desperate before. They beat Green Bay. We'll see what Philadelphia does against Buffalo. Now on to the afternoon games. Only 3 late afternoon games. This is the most Chargers game ever. They just find different ways to lose. I thought this team was going to be a lot better than they were. Their only chance of making the playoffs is the fact that they're in the AFC. But outside of that, I mean, what the hell has happened to the Chargers? I know they're injured. I know they're beat up, but they're not even playing good. They're not even playing good on either side of the ball. Ryan Tannehill had a great passer rating in this game as well. I believe he only had 6 incomplete passes. I just don't understand. I don't understand this team at all. And because of that, I just don't know what the rest of the season is going to look like. They're going to play the Chicago Bears, next week. We'll see if they can get a win there, but I don't know. I just don't know about the Chargers anymore. As for the Titans, good win. We'll see how you do against Tampa Bay next week. Now we're going to be moving on to the Saints and the Bears. Speaking of the Bears, their offense is terrible. I made a whole video talking about how they have a quarterback problem, and you could feel free to disagree with me, but let's be real. I'm going to touch on this briefly. What's the difference between Marcus Mariota and Mitchell Trubisky? Is there a significant difference between those two? They're basically the same player. One's just a little bit better than the other, but they're the same dude. When it comes to the Bears in general, though, their defense, the first week for the Bears defense that, they couldn't be world beaters. They couldn't suffocate people. And the Akeem Hicks injury is an important injury, but everyone raves about the depth of their defensive line and how they're stacked on that side. Where was it against Latavius Murray? You didn't even have to play Alvin Kamara. You didn't even have to play against Jared Cook. So, where was that great defensive line that the Bears talk about all the time? Where were they? Nowhere to be found. There's the answer. And a take, and I talked about this in the video as well, a take that is held strong is that you can throw on the Bears defense. You can. I mean, people just thought, oh, I was just shitting on the Bears because I'm a Packer fan and that's what I'm supposed to do. No, you can throw on the Bears defense. Teddy Bridgewater literally proved it. You can throw all over this Bears defense. Now, you have to have time to do that, but you can because their corners aren't that great. Kyle Fuller's a fine corner. He's a good corner. He's not a great corner. He's not an elite corner. He's none of that. He's a fine corner. He's good. When it comes to Prince Amukamara, he is older, but he's a good veteran corner. He's good. He's nothing special. He's just good. And then, who's their nickel corner? Buster Screen. Yeah, Jets fans could not wait for him to get out. And even when the Packers scored only 10 points against the Bears, I was telling people, you can throw on the Bears defense. Well, Aaron Rodgers couldn't. Yeah, it's also the first week of the season, and it's the first week with him in a new offense. What, you expect him to put 42 on them too? What the fuck? But a good win for the Saints. 5-0 with Teddy Bridgewater. They've just been a resilient football team. There's a chance Drew Brees could play this week. I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think you need him out there this week against the Cardinals. But if you want him out there, sure, go ahead. Ravens and Seahawks. This was a very entertaining game. Lord, this was a great game to watch. 2 quarterbacks I'm completely a fan of, Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, his completion percentage could have been a lot higher if his receivers knew how to catch with gloves on in the rain. But Mark Andrews had 3 drops. I think there was a drop pass by another receiver. I'm pretty sure his running back dropped the pass. I mean, he had at least 5 drops out there, so his completion percentage could have been a lot higher. He went 9 of 20. Imagine if his receivers catch those passes. He could be 14 of 20 or 15 of 20. but instead 9 of 20. But he played a great game. They used him effectively in the run game. They've been doing that though, and he's just very special. As a runner of the football. I know everyone gets caught up in the fact that he runs the football and, he's a running back playing quarterback. No, he's not. He has shown that he can be a great thrower as well, or at least has the potential to be a great thrower. If you watch the games, dude, like, instead of looking at the stat sheet and saying, he went 9 for 20, you'll see, like, he made a beautiful throw to Miles Boykins in this game on, like, a deep pass or whatever. He played a good game, and they did exactly what they needed to do. The offense was nothing too special out there, but Lamar Jackson was, and that's all that really matters. It's hard to game plan for. Like, he's not the best quarterback in football by any means, but if I'm a defensive coordinator, I ain't trying to play him. Let's just put it like that. I am not trying to play him. And everyone keeps throwing out the idea, okay, let's throw a quarterback spy on him. Yeah, I agree. Throw a quarterback spy. Make sure he's as fast and elusive as Lamar Jackson. If he ain't as fast and elusive as Lamar Jackson, don't even waste your time. Have him blitz. Because I'm going to be honest, he made Bobby Wagner look stupid a few times. He was making a lot of Seahawks defenders look stupid a few times. And on that 4th and 2 call, they called a quarterback power. And I think they were going to go for a field goal, and Lamar Jackson was asked, like, hey, I'm thinking about going for it. You want to go for it? And Lamar was, like, pumped. He was like, yeah, call the play for me. And, well, he didn't really say call the play for me, but I'm pretty sure that was the attitude he was having. Like, yeah, I'm confident. Let's do this. And he gets an 8-yard touchdown. Broke a tackle as well. I mean, Lamar Jackson's just been playing well in the run game. But let's talk about the other side of the ball, the Ravens defense. I mean, Marcus Peters, in his debut game, gets a pick 6 on Russell Wilson, the first interception he's thrown this year, and it's a pick 6. So, good stuff from Marcus Peters. The thing about Marcus Peters is he's a zone press corner. He's more of an opportunistic type of corner. He has a lot of safety tendencies as well, but he plays the cornerback position. And he used to play his college ball in Washington, so in a way it was like a homecoming, which is very interesting to see. Marlon Humphrey, I'm pretty sure, like, forced the fumble and got a touchdown. Or he didn't force the fumble. It was more of like DK Metcalf, like, caught it, and then it slipped out of his hand. And, yeah, it was just a weird play from DK Metcalf. One of those, like, rare plays where it's like, okay, what the hell was going through your head there? But it really wasn't. I mean, it was his fault, but it was just one of those weird 1 in a million type of plays, I guess, where he catches it and it totally slips out of his hand. But 2 defensive touchdowns was the difference in this game for Baltimore. Because really, if you take away the 2 defensive touchdowns, it's 16 all. So, good game. Chris Carson wasn't too bad either. Russell Wilson, though, the 2 picks, I mean, geez. Not a good game for him. And then the fumble from DK Metcalf. I was more impressed with Lamar Jackson in this game. That's not to say Russell Wilson isn't still the MVP, but the Ravens did what they had to do. I picked Baltimore in my upset to beat Seattle at home, and it really isn't an upset per se, but because of how great Russell Wilson is at home, you're thinking, well, maybe Baltimore has a chance, but, I was just like, yeah, that's going to be my upset, and they won by 2 scores. Eagles Cowboys, I mean, oh man, that was an ass whooping if I've ever seen one. Doug Peterson on Monday, the week of the game, basically guarantees a win. You don't do that. You don't do that in this league. And then you try to backtrack, and it's like, no, you meant it. You need to hold that claim that you are going to guarantee that win. Like, don't try to backtrack now. Don't try to pussy out now. Like, hold that candle. Hold that, same energy, bro. Like, come on now. And then, like, he wins the coin toss and tries to get the ball first. He normally defers. And if you have a tendency as a coach and it's been working, why would you go away from it? And we'll talk about that more in a second. But 37-10 on their first drive, they fumble. Dallas Goedert fumbles. It was more of a great play by Dallas than a bad fumble from Goddard. And that basically just changed the whole complexion of the game. You just felt the momentum switch to Dallas's favor, and boy, things were ugly from there on out. Carson Wentz played probably his worst game I've seen him play in a long time. Just a bad game for him. Deserves a lot of criticism for that game. He did not play well. The receivers didn't play that well. The running game really wasn't there, and a lot of it had to do was because they were down by a bunch of points. But Dallas did a lot of things well on offense. I don't know. Patrick was telling me that he saw something about the last 3 weeks. Jason Garrett was calling the offense, and I'm going to be honest, no offense, that's a lame excuse. You lost 3 straight, and you win a game, and then the excuse is, oh, well, Jason Garrett was calling plays. So, let me get this straight. You're 3-0, and you're averaging 30-plus points a game, and you're just saying, nah, fuck it. Let's let this other dude call plays. No. Who does that? Who does that? Seriously. Like, you're 3-0. You're averaging 30-plus a game. Why would you change anything on offense? Anything. Why would you even change? That is like the dumbest shit I've ever heard. I mean, they're 4-3 now. They control their own destiny as they go on a bye week this week. And Philadelphia needs to figure out what the hell they're going to do next week against Buffalo. Anyway, let's talk about the Monday night game. I'm done with that game. Patriots, man, looking good. Playing against Sam Darnold and company. They forced a bunch of turnovers as well. This was Sam Darnold's worst game, as it has been for a lot of players. But this is something that I was telling my dad, was we've seen quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, play well against the Patriots defense. They may not win, but we've seen them play well. And the examples I used was Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. I said, if Sam Darnold wants to elevate his status, not only as a quarterback in the 2018 class, but a young quarterback in general, then he needs to come out here and play well. Or at least look like there's a bright future. And there still is a bright future, you know, like it's not the end for Sam Darnold at all, but you really wanted to see him play a good game, at least good enough. Like if he had an interception, whatever. If he fumbled once, whatever. But he had like 4 or 5 turnovers. And I don't even think he cracked 100 yards. I mean, this was the worst game I've ever seen out of Sam Darnold. And all of my concerns about Sam Darnold as a prospect have just come back, you know, to haunt me. I said that I do not like this guy throwing under pressure. You have to give him a clean pocket. You know, like, yeah, he's a good thrower of the football, but you need a clean pocket, and he cannot throw under pressure, and he's turnover prone, and all of those things are starting to come back. You know, and I don't even think they went anywhere, to tell you the truth. But that was a horrible game for the Jets all around. Their defense, I mean, you're really asking them to stop Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels and their little brainchild or whatever. The Patriots always come out in a different way. Like, some games, they go no huddle, they try to score as quick as possible. Some games, they just run the ball down your throat until you figure out a way to stop it. This game, it was slow, methodical, let's switch it up here or there. Like, they had like a 14-play drive, a 16-play drive, and they just took care of business. Sony Michel had 3 touchdowns. James White and Julian Edelman had 7 catches each. Jacoby Myers had a pretty good game as well. I mean, this was the definition of the Patriot way. We're going to suffocate you on defense, and on offense, we are going to beat you however we think we need to beat you. Whether it's go no huddle, or a slow methodical drive where we mix it up, or a slow methodical drive where we run the ball down your throat until you figure out how to play your gaps. So this was just a classic New England Patriot game. And speaking of the Patriots, let's talk about the trade they literally made 30 minutes before I started recording. Early in the morning, they traded a second-round pick to the Atlanta Falcons for Mohamed Sanu. And when I made a trade video about Mohamed Sanu, or the trade video where I was talking about the trades that need to happen, I had Mohamed Sanu in the video, but I didn't have him going to the Patriots. I had him going to Oakland. But let's talk about that for just a moment. We did talk about the Gary and Conley trade already, so let's just talk about this real quick. There was a report that the Patriots actually tried to trade for Mohamed Sanu at the draft night, and the Falcons backed out of it. I think they were going to get the Patriots. Did the Patriots have a first-round pick, or did they trade it? I can't remember. But they were going to make a similar trade, but the Falcons said no. And, the Falcons are doing exactly what I think they need to do. They need to get off of these contracts, some of them at least. You can keep the Grady Jarrett, the Deion Jones, the Julio, and the Matt Ryan contract, but you need to get off of all the other unnecessary, high-paid contracts. That's what you need to do. And they're getting an additional second-round pick. Maybe they trade up in the draft if they really feel like they need to. Or maybe the Falcons are just bad enough to secure a top 5 pick. Last year, if the season would have ended, they would have had like the 7th overall pick, but they decided to go on a win streak. Cool. For the Patriots, they like the receivers they have, but, Josh Gordon's been hurt. Philip Dorsett, he played, and he got a touchdown and he played well, but the Patriots clearly need more bodies out there. Like, some of their special teamers are having to play, like Gunner, Osklets, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, I ain't even going to try it. And then Brandon Bolden was playing some receiver last night. So yeah, getting Mohamed Sanu is great, and he's going to be a good option for Tom Brady. And for the Falcons, they clear up over $8 million in cap space. They get a second-round pick. They might get a compensatory pick as well. We'll see how that goes. So, it's a good trade. And I jokingly told Aaron, give us like a 4th round, or give us Mohamed Sanu for a 4th round pick. Give us, meaning, hey, give Green Bay Sanu, we'll give you a 4th. I did not think a 2nd round pick would be traded for that man, but I understand. I understand why. Maybe they wanted AJ Green, and then the AJ Green thing wasn't going to happen. The Broncos aren't going to trade in the AFC when it comes to Emmanuel Sanders, so the last resort was Mohamed Sanu. And they were like, okay, we're going to send the 2nd round pick your way. We need Mohamed Sanu. And that's really what it comes down to. And if you look at a healthy Patriots core, you're looking at Julian Edelman, Mohamed Sanu, Josh Gordon, Philip Dorsett as like your 4 receivers. So where are the lack of receiving options for Brady exactly? Nowhere. Now, they do need a better tight end. I will admit that. I don't know where they go for that. Maybe Cameron Brate from Tampa Bay. I like that trade a lot. But we'll see. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed. And, peace out. And let me know how you're feeling about your favorite team down in the comment section below.